All right, 2027 Honda CRF450 here. We're at Spring Creek. Ryan Dudick, the man, the myth, the legend. Ryan, you've had a lot of work on this particular motorcycle. It's been on the cover of our magazine. This thing's brand new. I think about the only thing that they didn't change is the front hub.
We don't start from scratch, but we started from scratch. I mean, the frame is 70% new, all the different pieces, a lot of different rigidity changes on the frame. Engine is completely new, and that's the big thing. I mean, like, hey, since 2017 through 26, we had the same motor. So it's that 10-year cycle. Brand new, you know, sometimes you say brand new, and it's like a few different changes here and there. This one, there's nothing in this engine that is from the old engine. So new starter, new clutch system, bore and stroke has been changed, a little bit bigger bore, shorter stroke, exhaust has changed, now we meet a lower sound, power has increased, torque has increased.
What was the kind of the idea behind it? Was it smaller, lighter, faster, or?
Stronger, lighter, faster,
Okay.
but also, yeah, the motor is a little more narrow, more compact, the head's more compact, you get a better downdraft, intake's changed, nothing on this bike that goes onto the old bike, except for the front wheel, like you said.
You guys were able to talk to all the engineers involved with it. When you say everything's more compact, they were also saying that higher quality, hey, it's a different material. It might not be steel and titanium, but it's a different material to where it's like, okay, this is steel and now this is high grades.
That's right. And so like a concept that they started with on the design team was like ultimate motocrosser. So it's a known thing. Some manufacturers, you got to save money somewhere, you know, but this one, it's like we went with the higher grade materials and put everything we had at it to make a better, more premium bike. Like that material we're talking about is the higher strength steel on the shift drum, right? And then we were talking with the engineer last night, and it's still steel shift drum, but it's a higher strength material. And same, like going back to the aluminum head hangers, they cost a little bit more, but they have a little bit better performance on this chassis than the previous ones.
And now the clutch has kind of a bumper style clutch. And you were also saying with the new starter gears to be quieter, and everything was to reduce weight, kind of a higher performance. So engine wise, completely brand new. Like you said, inside and out. There might be a couple nuts and bolts here that are the same. Internally, a lot of stuff that changed. Even changed the unicam system.
Yeah, that's right. So smaller, more compact. And we say it's more rigid, you know, it's a little bit stronger, but that's to move it and make it a little smaller. And that was able to get a better downdraft on the power. Going back to the clutch, it has that rubber damper. It kind of acts like a cush drive from a street bike. It helps a lot for the decel and the engine catching to keep the bike a little smoother on that.
Now, one thing that people might not really like to hear, but the rear wheel is different. But what we're hearing is maybe that rear wheel, your previous complete rear wheel, might fit.
It would fit. It will fit. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not recommended because this one's stronger, but and this is a little bit better with the collars. The collars do work, and the new sprocket.
And those collars are rounded off, designed by Lars is what you were saying?
So if you're changing your rear wheel, you know, if you knock your collars off, they have a little groove now that stay in there, and then they're rounded to get that.
Well, for us in the off-road world, that's going to be a lot better for quick tire changes. Now, you say that rear hub is a lot stronger, so that sprocket is different.
The sprocket is different. The old sprocket does not mount. Now our sprockets, the whole pattern went bigger.
Ergonomically wise, you were talking about that Honda kind of widened their bike a little bit just to kind of get a little bit more comfort. We had been talking in the past about, you know, sometimes that seat would blow out, especially with somebody on the larger side. It'd blow out a little bit and you can kind of feel those frame rails. Even with the wider seat and ergonomics, you also changed the rigidity of the subframe as well, correct?
A little bit. The subframe is pretty similar, but its shape is different to have easy access to the airbox and also for changing the shock.
Okay. Kind of shortening that distance between riders and what the riders are racing and what they're winning on, and a lot of input. And I know Lars has had, you've been friends with Lars for a long time, so going back and forth, kind of take us through that a little bit of how instrumental is the race team in the development of this motorcycle?
Yeah, in the past 5 years, and a lot of it's bringing Trey in. And in the past, we had Andrew Short in the past. We always had a pro rider, you know, trying that. We had Freddie Knorr in before even Andrew Short, you know, in the 17-year model. So like when we started on this bike, you kind of, you set a target. We basically brought out the race bike and used their factory transmission and tried to match that off of that race.
Oh, okay. The tank is slightly bigger so that you can ride a national on it and actually make it through. Lots of race team influence, not just graphics. That's enough talking. I'm looking at the track. I want to go ride. So we'll come back a little bit later and check it out and tell you what we think, our first impression on this thing. first day of testing concluded. You heard about the bike when we talked to Ryan Dudek at the beginning of this video. Now we actually got to ride it. We were at Spring Creek. We were a little bit spoiled today. We had pretty epic conditions. Traction in the morning was amazing, and then after lunch it started drying out a little bit, but there's a couple things that stand out to me about this bike. The vibration from previous years is gone. The new clutch feel is really kind of linear, not notchy like before. It's really linear. And the power. The power is, it's quieter, and usually quieter means slower. That doesn't mean that with this motorcycle. Quieter means that you just don't have to wear earplugs. It makes really good usable power, and you can tell the difference in that usable power when it comes to right off bottom. It's not really snappy right off bottom, but the power's there. Map 1 is the standard map. I went through all the maps. Map 2 is the less aggressive map, and then map 3 is the aggressive map. Map 2, it just kind of feels like the bike doesn't have any punch, but there's still decent amount of power there. Map 3, you better be ready for it. It's not like right aggressive right off the bottom. It's about the same as what map 1 is, but through the mid and on top, it just keeps going. Like, it keeps making power. They were saying that the factory bikes do have that kind of more mid and top up top. They don't really have a bunch down low. Definitely faster, but it's more of a usable kind of power. I kept my finger on the clutch, but this bike, if you turn the idle up a little bit, sometimes you don't even need that power boost that the clutch gives you right off the bat. The other thing that I was really surprised about is suspension settings. If you would have told me what my numbers were and where the fork height was and everything when we first started this, I would have told you you're crazy. There's no way that I'm gonna like that bike. It's gonna be too front end heavy, and we ended up about 104 millimeters sag. We went in a couple clicks to slow down the rebound. That was more just for personal preference. And then the fork was 5 millimeters, which is what standard is. Usually I like my forks almost flush, and then the back sacked out around 105 to 107 millimeters of sag. When I did that, it gave me a really vague feel up front, and I wanted to put more back on the front end. With my background and off-road stuff that we're doing a lot, like, I would have said that, yeah, you're crazy, but it's talking to the technicians, talking to even Trey Kennard, who did a lot of testing with this bike. You got to kind of go against those numbers. Again, I would have said, you guys are crazy. I'm not gonna like that. And then as I started testing throughout the day, the track got a little bit drier, but I found myself in a kind of an odd spot. I think this bike is a step forward. The other thing that I didn't even think about when I was riding it, this bike is a substantial size motorcycle. It's wider to me than what last year's bike is. The tank being slightly bigger to be able to hold enough gas to do a pro national. It kind of gives it a wider feel, but even the seat has a wider feel all the way throughout. I don't like a big bike, and I don't like a heavy bike, but I like a bike underneath me that I know it's there. I don't like a bike that's really light that I'm gonna, whip it in the air and it's gonna kind of go out from underneath me. This bike is kind of that happy medium in between the two. Lots of positives about this motorcycle. Honda did a lot of research, and a lot of development in general. Again, this is a track that I'm not used to riding. We get the bikes back on the West Coast here in the next couple weeks, so stay tuned to a little bit more testing on tracks that we're used to riding, maybe higher speed tracks that aren't as rutted. Really interested to stack this bike up against some of the bikes. The Yamaha was our winner in the 450 class last year, so could it knock it off? Hey, it's a possibility. It's definitely got a lot of improvements to it. If you got a little bit more time on your hands and you want to check out some more videos that we've done, hit those video thumbnails now, and don't forget to subscribe, because when you subscribe, it sends you an email and lets you know on what we have that's out and what we have that's new. We have 2027 models coming. We have some Project 2 strokes coming. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.